I was never the kind of person who believed in shortcuts or easy success. Everything I achieved in life came from sheer hard work, sleepless nights, and an unshakable determination to prove myself. I was my father's daughter, the one who carried his company on my shoulders when it was on the brink of collapse. But looking back now, I wonder if he ever truly saw me as more than just a tool for his success. When our company was drowning in debt, my father was losing hope. Investors were pulling out, employees were leaving, and bankruptcy seemed inevitable. I couldn't just stand by and watch everything crumble. That company wasn't just a business, it was my home. I had grown up watching my father build it from the ground up. I knew every single detail about how it worked, every weakness and every potential for growth. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I spent months locked in my small office, coding and designing a revolutionary travel software that would change the game for our business. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I didn't sleep, when my eyes burned from staring at the screen for hours, when my fingers ached from typing non-stop. I gave up weekends, vacations, and even my personal life because I believed in what I was creating. And then it happened. The software launched, and within months, it transformed everything. It automated processes, increased efficiency, and brought in clients we never even dreamed of reaching before. Suddenly, the company that was about to shut down was making headlines for its incredible comeback. Within 2 years, our revenue skyrocketed to $400 million. We went from a failing business to a market leader, and it was all because of my innovation. For the first time in my life, I saw my father beam with pride when he spoke about me. He praised me in front of the media, calling me a genius, a visionary. He stood beside me in interviews, telling the world that his daughter had saved the company. And I believed him. I believed that he truly appreciated me, that he saw my worth not just as his daughter but as the person who had rebuilt his empire. I was wrong. That morning felt like any other. I walked into the office, my mind already busy with the tasks ahead. There were meetings to attend, updates to review, and new expansion strategies to finalize. This company was my life, my creation, and I had poured every ounce of my soul into making it what it was today. But as I approached the entrance, something felt off. I swiped my access card like I had done every day for years, but the scanner beeped red. Access denied. I frowned and tried again. Access denied. My stomach tightened. Maybe it was a technical glitch. But when the security guard approached me, hesitation in his eyes, I knew something was wrong. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you need to come with me," he said. I followed him down the hall, my heart pounding. Employees glanced at me as I passed, whispering among themselves. My mind raced through possibilities. A mistake? A security update I wasn't informed about? But nothing could have prepared me for what was waiting in the boardroom. My father sat at the head of the long glass table, his expression unreadable. The board members were there too, their faces tense, their gazes avoiding mine. And then, in the coldest tone I had ever heard from him, my father slid a termination letter across the table. "You're no longer part of this company." For a moment I couldn't process his words. My ears were ringing, my hands frozen at my sides. I let out a short, breathless laugh, thinking it had to be a joke. "What?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Dad, what is this?" He leaned back in his chair, completely unmoved. "You've done your job. Now step aside. The company doesn't need you anymore." The room felt like it was spinning. This was a company I had saved, I had rebuilt. And now I was being thrown out like I was nothing? I shook my head, forcing myself to speak even as my throat tightened. "I created everything you have today. I developed the software that made you a billionaire. You can't just fire me." He let out a sigh as if I was annoying him. "You were an employee, not the owner." Then, as if that wasn't cruel enough, he smirked. "Now leave." That smirk shattered something inside me. He didn't just betray me, he enjoyed it. I realized then that all those moments of praise, all those times he had called me his brilliant daughter, had meant nothing. He had used me. And now that he had what he wanted, I was disposable. I clenched my fist. "You're making a mistake." He simply shrugged. "I've already replaced you." I stared at him, my father, the man I had trusted more than anyone. And in that moment I understood, he had never seen me as his equal. I had never truly mattered. I turned and walked out, not because I accepted defeat but because I knew one thing for sure. I would make him regret this. I stumbled out of the building, my vision blurred with tears. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to keep walking even though every step felt heavier than the last. I had walked through those doors 1,000 times before, full of purpose and determination. But today I was leaving like a stranger, thrown out of my own empire. I don't even remember how I got home. Maybe I drove. Maybe I walked. It didn't matter. All I knew was the unbearable weight pressing down on my chest, the hollow ache spreading through my body. I had spent years building that company, sacrificing my youth, my personal life, my dreams. And in the end, none of it mattered. I was nothing to him. For days I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just sat there staring at the walls, replaying every moment in my head. The boardroom. The smirk on my father's face. His words cutting through me like a blade. You were just an employee. I had given him everything. My knowledge, my ideas, my hard work. And for what? So he could take all the credit and throw me away like garbage? I felt humiliated. Worthless. But the worst part? I still wanted to believe it was a mistake. Maybe he would call. Maybe he would realize he had gone too far. Maybe there was still some part of him that cared about me, not as an employee but as his daughter. But reality was crueler than I ever imagined. A few days later I found out the truth. He had been planning this for months. While I was working tirelessly to expand the company, he was making moves behind my back. He had already found someone to replace me long before I even knew I was being pushed out. The final blow came when I discovered that he had transferred the software patents under his own name. The very thing I had created, my software, my innovation, was now legally his. He had made sure that I would walk away with nothing. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a complete erasure of everything I had ever done. And that's when something inside me snapped. I wiped my tears away. The humiliation, the heartbreak, the disbelief. It all burned away, leaving only one thing behind. Rage. I wasn't going to sit there and cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg him to see my worth. If he thought he could steal from me and get away with it, he was wrong. I was going to take everything back. And when I was done, he would regret ever crossing me. I wiped my tears, took a deep breath, and opened my laptop. My father thought he had taken everything from me, but he had underestimated me. If he wanted to play dirty, I would show him what real power looked like. The first step was research. I needed to find a way to legally destroy his empire, something he wouldn't see coming until it was too late. I spent hours digging through company records, legal documents, and contracts, searching for anything I could use against him. That's when I found the loophole, the one mistake he had overlooked in his arrogance. Since I was the original creator of the software, I still had access to certain back-end codes. My father might have transferred the patent to his name, but the software's foundation, the core programming, was still tied to my developer credentials. That meant I had control over something he didn't even realize: the updates. Without regular updates, the software would slowly become unstable. Small glitches would appear, causing customer complaints. Security vulnerabilities would start showing up. And worst of all, competitors would take advantage of the failure. I knew I had to be careful. If I made any sudden changes, he would get suspicious. So instead I took my time. Quietly, subtly, I blocked all future updates while keeping the system running just well enough that no one would notice, until it was too late. But I didn't stop there. If I wanted revenge, I had to hit him where it hurt the most: his dominance in the market. I reached out to major competitors, the same companies that had once tried to buy our software but failed. With my reputation and expertise, getting a meeting was easy. I pitched them a new and improved travel software, one that would be faster, smarter, and far more advanced than the one my father had stolen from me. And this time I made sure I was the sole owner. The response was overwhelming. Companies that had once envied my father's empire were eager to sign deals with me. They knew that if I had built one revolutionary software, I could do it again, but better. Within weeks, the deal was finalized. I had secured massive contracts with multiple competitors, and soon they would be launching my new software into the market. The best part? My father had no idea what was coming. While he sat comfortably in his office, thinking he had won, his empire was already crumbling beneath him. His outdated software was about to crash and burn, and by the time he realized it, I would have already taken everything from him. It started slowly, almost unnoticeably. At first, there were just a few customer complaints. Small glitches in the system, minor bugs that people assumed were temporary. My father's IT team scrambled to fix them, but no matter what they tried, the errors kept spreading. Then the real damage began. Major clients started reporting crashes. Entire booking systems froze, transactions failed, and customers lost their reservations. Travel agencies, airlines, and hotels that had relied on my father's software were now furious. Refund requests flooded in. One by one, clients started pulling out. The company tried to assure investors that it was just a technical issue, but I knew better. I had made sure there was no fix, no update, no way for them to recover. The company's stock plummeted overnight. Investors panicked and started selling. News headlines spread like wildfire. Billion-dollar travel empire in crisis. CEO's reckless decisions lead to financial disaster. Tech genius fired by own father. Now his company is falling apart. The media had turned against him. Journalists started digging into what had happened. They uncovered how my father had fired the very person who built his success. They painted him as a careless, greedy businessman who had destroyed his own empire. Everywhere he went, he was ridiculed. Meanwhile, my new software was dominating the market. The same clients that had abandoned my father's company now came running to me. They didn't care about loyalty, they just needed a system that worked. And mine was better, faster, and completely secure. The final blow came when investors withdrew their funding. Without financial backing, my father's company couldn't recover. Employees quit in waves, knowing the company wouldn't survive much longer. Then one evening my phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was my father. I let it ring. Then I let it ring again. Call after call. Begging. Pleading. I never answered. Days later I got an email. The tone was different. Desperate. Please, we need to talk. I made a mistake. I need your help. I laughed. He had never needed my help when he stole from me. When he took my software, my position, and threw me out of my own creation, he had smirked. He had enjoyed my pain. Now he was the one suffering. Then the final announcement came. The board of directors removed him as CEO. They blamed him for the company's downfall, for losing investors, for losing me. Within months, the company that once stood at $400 million was officially bankrupt. And my father? He was left with nothing. I was sitting in my office reviewing the latest reports. My new software had surpassed every competitor in the market. Profits were skyrocketing, and my company had become a dominant force in the industry. That's when I heard a commotion at the reception. I turned my head towards the glass walls of my office and froze. Standing there, looking nothing like the arrogant, powerful man he once was my father. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and his eyes filled with desperation. Security was already approaching him, but before they could throw him out, I raised my hand. "Let him in," I said, my voice calm. As he stepped into my office, I could see the hesitation in his steps. The humiliation. The regret. He wasn't here as a businessman. He was here as a man who had lost everything. He sat across from me, silent at first. I waited. Then finally he spoke. "Please," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Please help me fix this. You're my daughter." I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. His words should have hurt, but they didn't. I felt nothing. "Daughter," I repeated, tilting my head. "That's funny. Because the last time we spoke you said I was just an employee. Not the owner. Not family." He shut his eyes tightly as if my words cut him like a knife. I made a mistake," he admitted. "I should never have done that to you. But I was blinded by power. You thought you didn't need me," I finished for him. "You thought you could take everything I built and leave me in the dirt." He looked down, his shoulders slumped. The weight of his actions had finally crushed him. "I lost everything," he murmured. "The company, the money, the respect of everyone I once knew. I don't even have enough to pay for my house. I have nothing." I should have felt pity. But I didn't. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the city skyline. The same city where he once ruled, and where I had now taken his place. He was waiting for me to say something. To forgive him. To save him. I turned back to face him, my expression unreadable. "You taught me something important, Dad," I said, my voice firm. "You taught me that business is about power. And in power there's no place for weakness." He looked at me with pleading eyes. "I'm not asking for power. I'm asking for mercy. Please, help me." I let out a small laugh. "Mercy? That's what I begged for when you fired me. When you stole from me. Did you listen then?" He flinched. You ruined yourself with your own greed, I continued. I didn't have to destroy you, Dad. You did that all on your own. Tears welled up in his eyes. Please. I took a deep breath and looked him straight in the eyes. Then with a cold smile I said the words I knew would break him completely. You were right, Dad. I was just an employee. Not your daughter. His face crumbled. His lips parted but no words came out. I walked to the door, opened it and gestured for security. They stepped inside waiting for my command. Show Mr. Seo the way out, I said calmly. He didn't resist. He knew it was over. As he was let out of my office I watched him walk away, defeated, humiliated and alone. Just like he had left me. I sat in my high-rise office looking at the city below. It was all mine now. The same industry that once belonged to my father was now under my control. Every deal, every major client, every success, was mine. I had rebuilt everything from scratch. My company had become the fastest-growing travel tech firm in the world. Investors lined up to work with me. Clients who once relied on my father's business now depended on mine. I had achieved everything he once had, and more. Meanwhile, my father had faded into nothing. No company. No money. No respect. He had tried to rebuild but no one trusted him anymore. The media had torn him apart, exposing how he had fired the very person who built his empire. Investors refused to back him, knowing he had betrayed his own blood. He had lost everything, just as he had made me lose everything. I heard he was struggling to make ends meet. Living in a small apartment trying to find work, but no one wanted to hire a man who had become infamous for his greed. He was nothing now. Me. I had become unstoppable. I had proven that his betrayal didn't break me, it only made me stronger. One evening as I was leaving my office, I passed by a coffee shop. And there he was. Sitting alone in the corner, a cup of coffee in front of him, staring into space. The once powerful Seo now looked like a ghost of his former self. He hadn't seen me but I stood there for a moment, watching. A part of me had waited for this moment. To see him like this. To witness the downfall he had brought upon himself. He had betrayed the person who built his empire. And in return he lost it all. I turned and walked away, never looking back. Because that was the final lesson. Never betray the one who builds your empire because they can destroy it just as easily.